It's been a difficult past few weeks for Lake Resources. They've had their founding CEO and managing director leave the company. They've had a recent short seller report that they've had to contend with. And of course, there's been a significant downturn in terms of the LKE share price. Today, we'll talk about all of the different factors that have been contributing to the difficulties for Lake Resources, and then we'll talk about some of the key questions that investors and analysts will continue to watch and ponder over as the Lake Resources story unfolds from here.
Sit back and enjoy.
And so just having a look here at where Lake Resources is currently positioned. Of course, we know the lithium sector was running hot over this past period. Lake Resources was one of the leading shining lights in that sector. LKE rose above the $2 mark early in 2020. They were recently included into the ASX 200. However, over the past period, there's been a significant sell-off in terms of their share price. We know there is macroeconomic uncertainties as well contributing in, but a lot of the downturn has come since the earlier mid stages of June. There's a range of different reasons, and we'll talk about why that's happened throughout this. But first, setting that lay of the land. As we know, Lake Resources has a number of different projects in the lithium triangle. As you can see here, Kachi is their most commercially advanced project. It's still in the development stage at the moment, but it is the most advanced out of the 4 projects that they have. It's worth noting that they are doing drilling and looking at further advancing some of their other projects in terms of Kachi, Olaroz and Peso. But for Kachi's project at the moment, they're working towards a DFS. They've upgraded the base case throughput from 25,000 TPA to 50,000 TPA, and they'll be releasing that DFS in the upcoming period. They do have 2 non-binding MOUs with Ford and Hanwha. It is worth noting that they are non-binding at this current stage. And of course, they're still looking to continue on this path to really feed into that lithium shortfall that we're continuing to see expand over this upcoming period, as many other ASX lithium aspirant developers are. And so then for all of the news that's really fed into this uncertainty, first and foremost was this initial announcement. We did a video onto this a couple of weeks ago. Lake Resources provided this announcement discussing their appointment of an executive chairman. Stu Crow, who was serving as chairman, will serve as exec chairman for 6 months to oversee the appointment of a new CEO, board members, and the establishment of the US offices. It is noteworthy as well that Lake Resources, of course, their projects are in the lithium triangle in South America. They want to get embedded into the North American supply chain, which is going to be a fast-growing supply chain, and a number of key players there. Of course, there's alignment with Ford as well. But what was significant was the line through here, which was that as part of this transition, their current managing director, who was a founding MD, Steve Promnitz, will be departing. There was a lot of uncertainty about why this has happened. What was the story? There wasn't a lot more color that was added with this initial announcement. And so then a few days later, Lake Resources provided this announcement to the market. They continued to discuss everything else that had played out, but they provided some further insight about how this had actually occurred, with the timing of Mr. Promnitz's resignation of his own volition. The board received his resignation on Friday. No reason was provided by Mr. Promnitz. The board then considered his resignation and informed the market on Monday. Stu Crow provided an investor presentation recently, which he gave some more insight about how this all played out, and then Lake reaffirmed some of the key catalysts up ahead that they'll be continuing to watch for. This includes potential CEO and managing director candidates, of course negotiations over the terms of the MOUs with both Ford and Hanwha, financing and finalisation of that, with Citi and JP Morgan, the announcement that came out over this past period, who will be helping to facilitate the financing packages, and of course, Lake's technology partner, Lilac Solutions, who are looking to get that modular demonstration plant up and running on site at Kachi. And then we had this short seller report from J Capital. J Capital released this report a couple of days ago, and there were really a few key contentious points here that they brought up. First and foremost, they were questioning, of course, the DLE technology. As we know, there is no commercially available DLE technology yet. There's a range of different companies that are looking to bring out their solutions. We know that spodumene and conventional brine extraction technologies are in commercial production at this stage, but DLE is not yet. And so that's worth understanding with this whole discussion here. They believe that DLE will still use large amounts of water and produce toxic waste. Of course, Lake is focused on producing that cleaner lithium to feed into the supply chain with the decarbonised solutions around the world. They've also mentioned that Lake has failed to get an operational pilot plant on site 3 years after promising it. And they also talked about insiders and share sales, as well as options that were provided to a range of different financial institutions for research reports. They also provided some other insights here that investors were expecting the delivery of the pilot plant or the demonstration plant on site and a DFS by the end of June. But instead, of course, they got the resignation of Steve Promnitz, as we talked about earlier before. There was a lot of contention about this, a lot of uncertainty came through into the markets. We saw it flowing through to the share price as well. And then Lake provided this response in the middle of July. They went into a trading halt to provide this. I'd love to know your thoughts on it all as well. So drop in a comment below what you've made of this situation and where do you think things head from here. So having a look at Lake Resources' response, there was a few key areas that they responded on. First and foremost was on the technology itself. Of course, they're working with their partners, Lilac Technology. If you are interested in getting a deeper understanding about J Capital, you can read through the report there. It's a significant one that's got a range of different information. But they responded quite significantly about their partner, Lilac Solutions, and their proprietary ion exchange technology. It's worth noting that Lilac Solutions themselves have got a 25% earn-in on achievement of a range of different milestones for their Kachi Lithium Project, which of course helps to breed alignment with that. But we see here, Lake provide that broader overview on the technology itself and then on the disclosure of share trades. I'll let you read through those in your own time. Of course, that's outside the scope of this video where we're just discussing everything that's going on. And then they also discuss the MOUs, which will be interesting as well because as we know, the disclosed MOUs are largely non-binding. They've been entered into with globally recognized companies, but Lake believe that the nature of the MOUs and the negotiations and ongoing dialogue towards terms of agreement gives Lake reasonable confidence that there will be outcomes which will assist in progressing the Kachi project. There's a lot of information to digest between these two reports here, so I'll let you go through them yourself, but that's really been a lot of the uncertainties that's been playing out over this past period with the Lake Resources story. And so before we discuss these unresolved questions for the Lake Resources story, as you know, we've just launched a second channel for investors. If you haven't yet, make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on for all things markets, macroeconomics, trends, and everything else. But what are these unresolved questions? First and foremost, of course, a lot of the uncertainty from J Capital surrounded the Lilac Solutions technology. We know that the demonstration plant is moving towards being on site and then eventually commissioned. This will go some way to answering some of those questions. We know there's been pilot module test work in California already, but of course, seeing the demonstration plant on site with Kachi Lithium will be another discussion. As we know, DLE is modular and has the ability to scale from there. So this will be the first question. Then secondly, the new CEO. Of course, it's always a difficult time with a transition from an incumbent leader into the new generation. As we know, moving a company like Lake Resources from early stage explorer all the way through to the ASX 200 has got a range of different skill sets all the way through the leadership team. So it's going to be interesting to see who they choose to bring in, the types of skill sets they have, whether they've gone through to production previously, and of course the market reaction to that as well. As we know too, we've talked about it already, the transition from those offtakes, non-binding MOUs, which is obviously a pathway towards discussions, to more binding and formative agreements in terms of MOU themselves. Investors will continue to watch for that. And then the optimized DFS numbers. We know that the optimized DFS has been long awaited. Of course, we know there's a range of different factors now leading into inputs for them. Higher input costs, we know there's inflationary pressures throughout the economy, and of course, resources spaces are not immune to that. But on the other side as well, we've got record high lithium prices that have continued to rise. So it'll be fascinating to see the numbers that plug out of that. And of course, all of that centers around the Kachi Lithium Project. But Lake Resources have got a number of projects. They've earmarked funding for the further development of those. They're continuing on drilling as well. So it'll be fascinating to see the different components as they make up that broader Lake Resources offering. There's a lot of unresolved questions, uncertainties, and things to continue to watch for Lake Resources as they try to move towards that pathway towards production. Approvals on the environmental and social impact front, the DFS of course, finalising their funding too, moving those offtakes towards binding. Plenty to watch for. I'd love to know your thoughts. Drop in a comment, let us know your thoughts. Hope you've enjoyed this video. We're coming at you live from a set in Barcelona. This is a home set at the moment, a bit of a DIY when you look around at all of the lights, but hope you've enjoyed it. We'll continue bringing you videos as we travel around Europe. A big thank you for joining us. For now, stay well and happy investing.